In this tutorial, we're going to get into designing a sports numbers design. Be working with this Furious Racing design. If I select that and hold down Shift and hit F2, I'll zoom right into that. Now you can see the effects that are in the design. We've got some flames going on. We've got a 3D look and different types of things going on with this design. And we're going to get into all of how this is created. We're going to get into some techniques that I use that I really haven't seen other people using. For example, brushes, and I've included with the video a download on our website that also has the brushes that we'll be working with for the flame effect that you see on the text. The flames are over here, and we've got them all sitting here, and you can see how we work through this. We go through the numbers, and then we add some lines to create the 3D, and then we come in and do some flame work, working with brushes. I call this the flame construction brushes that I work with. And then we weld all of that together and clean it up. Then we go through and we add in the 3D look, and we start adding in other parts and pieces of the design. We get into where we've got most of this completed, and then we work on the background effect. And here we go into some pretty interesting work with bitmaps in CorelDRAW, and then converting that to vector, then coming through the rest of the steps in the design, and then finally finalizing the design. So this will be downloadable from the Advanced T-Shirts website so that you can work along with the tutorial. You'll have the brush construction pack and then this document. Now this is a large document, it's 145 by 10 inches. But because of all the steps involved in the design process, I really wanted to have everything here so you could follow along very easily and have reference to work with in the future when you're thinking about these effects. And there's nothing like working with the assets and the design tutorial at the same time. That way you learn much more effectively. You know, when you see and do and hear, it's better than just seeing. So I'm really trying to move into doing tutorials where I'm including the work along files so that you can work along with me as I'm working. The first thing I'd like to do is take a look at creating brushes and exporting them. Now, these are all custom-made flame brushes that I made. I call these construction brushes because there's many parts, and you can still use these individually as well. But I'll use them to construct flame looks and add them to things. So that's why I call them the flame construction brushes. We'll take a look at how that works to get started with. I'm going to go to the Artistic Media tool. I'll come over here to my Browse. And if I browse, I'll go to the C drive. I'll go to this PC. Here we go. We'll go to C drive. Go to Program Files. And this will automatically open here, but I'm going to go to Corel 2019. I'll go to Draw. Then I'll go to Custom Media Strokes. And here I'll see the flame construction brushes, and I'll select those. Now I'm already set to custom. If this is not set to custom, you'll want to set to custom. If it's set to one of the CorelDRAW default folders, then nothing will show up for the flame construction brushes. But I'm already set to custom, so I'll come down here. Now I can come here to, let's say, a flame asset. Now the interesting thing is, instead of working with the vector art asset like a piece of clip art, brushes give you the ability to form, shape, and change the size of the vector design assets. Very different from working with clip art, and that's why I have 1,600 brushes that I've created in my own time that I use, and they're also available on the Advanced T-Shirts website. Brushes let you do amazing things with your designs and in your design, I guess you could say, your graphics workflow process. But I'll start with this brush, and I'll hit Control Z because I had that brush selected and I didn't want that. I'll left click, hold down, drag, and bring this brush up like that. And you can see now I've changed the shape. Now here I have the property bar for the brush. Now I'm on the brush tool. And I can come up here to, let's say, the stroke width. And I can start to change that. I could enter a numerical value. I could also set my cursor there, go to the arrow keys on my keyboard, and just start pushing that up. And if I just hold down, it'll start going up very fast. And you'll see that change. Thinner, wider. Now, working with the brushes, you want to be able to go to your pick tool because the brushes are set up on a vector line. So I'll double click on that and I'll change to my shape tool. And I'll change to the shape tool property bar. Now I can come in here and start to work with this. And I can see I got 2 nodes here, so I don't want those. I'm going to delete one of those. And I can bring this up and I can start to shape this flame shape any way that I would like to, or how I'd like to work with it. Now when you see unsmooth areas in the brushes, that's usually because one of the nodes is causing a problem. Since you're in the shape tool, you can hover over. Now you see the cursor change to the squiggly shape, double click, drop a node there, come here, double click, delete the node, come here, get the control arm and the control handle and make it change that, and you can see how that's changing the shape of the brush. If I want to change that further, I can drop a node here, left click, pull this over here, and just start shaping that flame the way I'd like it to be shaped. Now I can go back in later and do some more work on that, cleaning that up once I've got the basic shape that I want with it. Now I can go back to the artistic media tool and get a different brush. But before I do that, I want to click off and not have this selected because I'll change the brush. And I'll show you that right here. If I go with that selected, and this is one of the other benefits of brushes, that you can change them out while you're working with them. I can take a look at this and see how that looked. Now I'll hit Control Z and go back. So once you've set up a line to put your brush or apply it to, you can go through your different brushes and see how they look applied to that same line. As you can see there, and I'll hit Control Z and go back again. Go to my pick tool, I'm going to click off, I'll go back to the artistic media tool, make sure I'm on brushes, come here to my brush list, come down here and take a look at something like, maybe we'll go with something from this brush here. Maybe I want to add something up here at the top. So I'll left click here, just drag up that way. Now I'll come here and make that quite a bit smaller. I'll just hold my arrow key and go down quite a ways. Now that fits in there kind of nice. And right now I'm just working for demonstrative purposes. I'm going to go back to my pick tool, come over here, make sure you're on the actual brush vector object itself, double click, and see once again I got an extra node here. I don't want that. Double click and get rid of that, and then we can shape this off this way according to the form that we have with our actual flame. Or I could bring this up here and start really shaping this into the flame that I have. And you can see here we've got the 2 control arms passing each other. It really does affect the brush. But if I bring this way down and then bring this up, and then I can pull this over this way, you can see the effect that I'm starting to get. And I can come up here, double click again, and then come here and release a node, and that looks pretty good there. And then bring this over, maybe want to curve that in a little more to what's going on with the flow of the flames the way I'm working. I can left click and make that a little bit smaller and see how that's working out there. And then once I work with all of these flames, I'll go back in. I'm going to click off, go back to my brushes, and I'll get another flame here. Now if you're working in 2019, use the properties bar for the brushes. The artistic media Docker in CorelDRAW 2019 is not functioning very well at this time. It needs some work. I'll go with this brush here, and I can just come in, let's say, over this way, and then follow the shape of the flame again. A little different there. Come here to the size of the stroke width. Go to my arrow key, press on the up key, and make that bigger until that fits into where I would like it. Now you can see what I'm doing is I'm constructing a custom flame design asset from the brushes. Once again, pick tool, double click, and we can start shaping things. Bring this over here, pull that up there, and you can see where I'm going with this. Now once all of that is done, I can left click, lasso, select everything, right click, break 6 objects apart, go to the line. Now here's the lines that the brushes were on. And the great part is if I was working on a design, I could form these flames to however I wanted them to be in the design. I can come back in here now at this point and start to adjust and tweak things based on how I'd like my flames to look based on the design that I'm working with. So I wanted to take a few minutes to go over the brushes. Once again, as far as I'm concerned, very valuable assets in the design process in CorelDRAW, and in many ways overlooked, because I've taken some shapes and now I've created a custom flame without going through all of the steps of trying to design the flame asset using the brush construction kit. And I do this with many different things when I'm working in the design process. If I see any opportunity to use brushes, I'll use them, including highlighting, shading, and more. So we'll wrap here concerning brushes, and like I said, you can go in here now and start to work with these. If you select an object, double click on it, you can start to work with the nodes and clean things up. For example, right here, I'm not really happy with what's going on here. So if I want to clean this up, it's very easy to do. Just start deleting nodes. Delete that, delete that, delete that, delete that, and that'll smooth that out. And then I can come here, get the control arm from the node, pull that back that way, maybe pull this up in this way a little bit. I can come in here and work on some of the nodes there and start to bring all of this together. Take these nodes, left click, select all of those nodes. Once again, from the shape tool, left click, hold down, select the nodes. Or I could select this node, hold down shift, select that, and you'll see I get just those nodes. And then move them up into, say, here. Starting to shape that out, but doing it much more quickly, working off of the foundation that I built, working with the flame brushes in the flame construction brush pack that's available and will be included for the download with this tutorial. So once again, we'll wrap here for the flames. I'll go ahead and delete these. We won't need these anymore. I just wanted to touch on the flames. Now here we have the number 21. That's the number we'll be working with. Now you can see here in this copy of 21, I have no fill and a black outline. I've created a line here, and then another line here going through the 1. And then I have another line going around through the middle of the number 2. Once those are set up, I can use the Smart Fill tool to create the 3D beveled look in the sports number design. To do that, I'll just take this 21, I'll select that with a left click. I'll left click, hold down, start moving that, right click one time to duplicate that. I'll go over here to the color palette, click on X to give that no fill, and then right click. That X was a left click, right click for the outline. Then I'll go to my pen tool. I used to be very heavy on the Bezier tool, but I've really moved to the pen tool for a couple of different reasons, and we'll get into that in some future sessions. But I'll select the pen tool, and then with the center mouse wheel on my mouse, I'll zoom in here. And the first line that I want to create goes from this point to this point, as you can see down here. So I'll just zoom in there, get nice and close, and I'll just drop a node here. Now this is very important. I want to be outside of the vector area so that the Smart Fill tool will work. And then come up through here, drop, and then double click. That's my first line. Now I have to be outside because if I'm not outside, the Smart Fill tool won't work, and I'll show you that. If I make this line only to here and I go to the Smart Fill tool and then I click on that, it goes through the entire object. I'll hit Control Z. But if I go to the shape tool and bring this back to here, then go to the Smart Fill tool and click I only fill that area. So it's very important that the lines that you create to create this 3D look are outside of the vector object. Now the next one I'm going to create is I'm going to come down here and I'll go back and get my pen tool. I'll just click here, start dragging. I can pull back on my center mouse wheel to zoom out even though I have the pen tool, and then come here and click right there. And then I can zoom in there and see how close that is. And I want to double click here to end that line. Go to the shape tool, and next I can just go to Control on my keyboard and that'll change to the shape tool from the pen tool, and make sure that's lined up. And do the same thing up here. You can just a little bit off that corner, so because I went to the shape tool from the pen tool by holding down Control, you can see now I'm back to the pen tool. A lot of interactive hotkeys and features in the pen tool, and once again I'll cover some of that in the future. So I've got that line set up. So now we've got two of the lines set up, and we'll go over here to the one and we'll work on that. So for the one, what I want to do is I want to go to like the center right here, start from this corner and go up into the center. And I'm just pushing back and forth on my center mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. And left click, drop right here, pull up here to right about what would be in the center. And you can eyeball that here between the two. Not to be perfect, but close enough is good enough. I'll zoom out, and then I'm going to come up here to right about where center mouse wheel, pushing in, going to the center. You can see here, going to the center, and then trying to line up with this line, coming right across here, drop there, and then come up to this corner and drop again, and then double click. Hold down Control and click on that node, and I'll go to the shape tool, zoom in. That looks really good. And then I'll zoom in down here and take a look, and I can take this node and just bring this over a little bit there, so we can see how that's set up now. The next step will be the line that goes around through the center of the number 2, and I've got a couple of different lines there. See, 1, 2, and 3. So I'll zoom into the 2, and if I click off, I'll still have my pen tool. So I'll start down here at the center at the bottom, drop a node, pull up, come in between these 2 points here. So I'm going to kind of go like right there. Then we'll go between these 2 corners here. So we'll go right in here, staying as close as possible to the center between the 2 points. Then come here between these 2 corners, say right about here, and then coming down to here. Now I'm just going to do 1 line this time instead of 3. So go right to about there, come down here between these 2, staying to the center, these 2 corners, right there, because you want the shape to follow the shape of the number. Once again, in between these 2 corners, right about there would be the center, then down to here, and I can zoom in right there, and then we'll come over here, right between these 2 corners here, and I'm going slowly for those of you that are beginners, and then I'll come up here to that corner there and drop that node there. And then I'll zoom in, hold down Control, click on that, and I can move that a little bit there that way. Zoom out, zoom in, center mouse wheel, make sure these are centered to the lines. Zoom out, zoom in, that looks good there. Come up here, zoom in, go to the Control key, click on it. If I want to make an adjustment, I could, holding down Control and clicking on the node. This all looks good, so I would say the number 2 is ready. Go back to my pen tool, and I can just double click here to finish the line. So now I have the line set up for creating the 3D look that I'm going to create in the numbers for the sports number design. Next, I want to start working with the flame. So I'll keep a backup of this, go back to my pick tool, I'll just lasso and select this, bring this over here on top of this area where I'm working with the flames, and we'll start getting into the flame work. I'll grab my zoom tool, and I'm going to left click, hold down lasso, Zoom right into this area so I can see what's going on with the flames down here, and then we'll start working with the flames up here. Go to the Artistic Media tool. We're still set to custom with our flame construction kit. I'm going to come down through my brushes, and I'll start out with this brush, which is the brush that I use down here. To get started, just left click, hold down, come up, and then kind of flare up here by the 1. Initially the stroke doesn't look very good because we need to make some adjustments to it. Some of the things that we went over earlier. So I'm going to go to my pick tool, double click on that, and we can see we've got some shape going on with the nodes. I'm going to left click and pull this node back. You can see where these arms are overlapping, and that's causing problems. I'm going to bring this down a bit, pull back this way, and bring this over here a little bit, and then pull up here. And now I'm starting to shape this in to how I would like it to look coming off of the 1. Pull this off this way. Actually, I think I just delete that, and then I'll come up this way, and I want to come into like right about there, bring this down this way, and that can go off a little bit. Now you can see that there's some more space here between the 1 and the 1 and the 21. I'm actually going to move this 1 over. Select that and just move that over a little bit. On the last one, make sure I get the entire 1. Go to the X in the middle, and then move that over. Now I can see what the problem is that I haven't broken these apart. So I have to right click here and go to break curve apart. Then I'll be able to move the number 1 over a bit to right about there to make some room for those flames. I'll double click here again, and now I can start to bring this in left, and then I know that's right about in here. See, when you're trying to get to that line that the brush is on, it's a lot more difficult with just the shape tool. So that's why if you click off, you go to the pick tool and just double click, you'll change to the shape tool. And I'm going to change the angle here, put a node here, bring this down this way, and you can see how I'm shaping that to kind of come off the 2 but then flow back down into the 1. And I want this to be coming in this way also, kind of like that, maybe a little bit more over there, coming right off the top in this area. So I'm happy with that brush at this point. I might want to bring this over here a little bit more this way, curve this up a little bit more, not too much, and I'll be able to go back in and make adjustments to that after I get done bringing this in, bringing that in, and just dialing that right in. And I can see how that brush is going to look. And I can move that also, left click, get my pick tool, and move that off right about there. Now the next brush I'm going to want to go to is I'll click off, make sure I don't have that selected because I don't want to change brushes. And I'm looking at this, maybe I'll stretch this out a little bit more, just like that. Kind of get a look like that going there top, a little different than here. Go back to the brushes and I'll come down here and look at my different brushes. See, I've got this brush. I'm working with simple brushes right now. Come down here and I've got this brush. And once again, I'm clicked on, I want to click off, make sure I don't change brushes. Come here, go down here again, select that brush. And that brush, I'm just going to actually zoom in here and just bring that right up through into there. I'm going to bring that down size, just holding down my arrow key so I can go right down. Go back to my pick tool, double click, and then bring this up into here. This node seems to be giving me a problem. And I might want to change this brush. I accidentally got the same brush. I think I'm going to change this brush. I'm going to go back to the Artistic Media tool, come down here, look at my brushes. Actually, I'll go with this brush. And we can see that effect there. Go back to my pick tool, double click on that, and we'll take and move this up that way, maybe just a bit. bring this up into here and just tweak that in as a shape. And we can see what's going on here with that brush. So that brush is set. And I'll zoom out, and I've got another brush down here. I get into now some of the bigger brushes. Now I've got the little one set up here. You can see here I'll just take these two and kind of left click, hold down on the X, right click one time and duplicate those over here. So that we've got the same look coming off the top of the 2 and off the top of the 1. And I might make this one a little bit bigger on the 1. I might do the same thing here. Just dial those in. Now I'm going to go to another brush, make sure I got nothing selected. I don't. Come into one of my different brushes here. I've got this. I've got that. That's pretty interesting. That's kind of interesting. And you look at these brushes and you think, you know, what do I want to use and where do I want to go? And I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, I might want to go with this brush, which is kind of similar to the brush down here. But now what I'll do is I'll take that brush, left click, hold down, and then come up through here and then go off into the 1. I'm going to need to make some adjustments to that. The first thing I'm going to do is go to my pick tool, double click on that, and smooth that out. See what's going on with things here. I can double click, drop a node here, that'll smooth that out here. When I delete this, you can see it smooths everything out. I'm going to go back to my artistic media tool, come here to the stroke width, and then I'll start pushing that up. And we can see the effect of this brush as it gets bigger. Now it's different than the one down here, so we're going to end up with a different look, but we'll still get the same type of style in our design. And I'm going to bring this over here and just bring this down in and size that right into there. Double click on that, and I'll bring that up into here more, and down this way a little bit, down that way a little bit, and shape that around the 2. Now see where these two are overlapping, that's going to cause a problem and we don't want that. We'll bring this out this way, maybe something like that, and this over that way. So there's the brush going down this way. So you can see how I'm really doing custom setup of the graphic, working with the brushes of the flames as opposed to working with static clip art. And I'll go ahead and leave that, and then I'm going to go ahead and what I'll actually do is I'll take this and duplicate it over here, because I'm going to use it over here on the 1 as well. Double click, bring this over here towards the bottom of the 1, and then change the shape. I'm going to get rid of this node here, bring this in this way a little bit more, maybe come up a little bit higher into the 1, pull that up, bring this down, then I come over here, drop a node, bring that node over that way. I'll zoom in here, get this node, pull that over that way, and start bringing these together. And I want to bring this down a little bit. I don't want those two really coming together too much. So I'm going to bring this right over this way, pull down into here, come up into there. I might bring another node here, pull this down just a bit. You can see that we're getting some warping here. I'll drop a node here, double click, delete that, and that'll smooth that right out. And I can bring some of this up into here, and then bring some of that up into there for that effect with that flame brush. Now, I was looking at this, I'm thinking maybe I'm going too far or too thick over here. I might want to change brushes. So I can go back to the artistic media tool, and I'll come down in here and look at some different brushes. Maybe that would be better over there. Come down into here. Maybe that would be better. Take a look at that. That looks pretty interesting. I'll come down into here, into different brushes. I'll scroll down and take a look at that. We've got that. We've got this. That's a lot of action going on there. And this brush is actually the brush we had before. I think what I'm going to do is I'll bring that down in size. So I'll click there in my stroke width and come down with the arrow and bring that size down a little bit. And then I'll go back to make some more adjustments. I know I'm working very slowly here, but I'm doing that for the sake of the video tutorial so that you can see what I'm thinking and what I'm doing while I'm creating this design. And I really want to bring this over here just a bit. And I think I'll be happy with that. That should actually be okay. And that should work. It's a little bit more of the flame effect than the other design, but it should work just fine. Now over here you can see I actually went in and put in some more brush effects, and we're going to do that also. Now looking at this, I've got that set up that way, and down here on the bottom all I did was I just took these brushes and I hold down shift and click off, select that, hold down shift, and then select this. I've got these two brushes and I brought these down here to the bottom, basically the same look as we had at the top, so they kind of follow suit. And then I'll come in and I'll double click here and I'll make some tweaking here on this brush to come off the bottom of the number one. I'll do the same here. Now see, getting the brush from the middle is a little difficult at times. And bring this up into here, double click there, delete that, bring this up this way, bring that up that way, and that should be okay there. Actually, I think I'll just keep this the same over here. So I'll just go here, delete this, delete that, come over here, and then I'll bring this over into right about there, and I'll zoom out and take a look. And what I want to do is I don't want to step on that one too much, so I can actually just take these and rotate them and reposition them. Something like that right there. Do the same thing here. Click here, get my rotation handle, bring that up, and then move that up into there. Bring this over into here. And that should be okay. I'm going to double click here. Change the shape because I want to hold this side of the number one so it's identifiable. Something like that there, and then bring that down this way. Come up here, and I'm going to bring this over here and then pull that back that way, and then bring this in this way. That way, the number one at the bottom, you'll be able to identify it. You don't want to destroy it and then lose the ability to see what's going on with the flames. Now over here we can see what I did. I just went in with some flames over here on the bottom. So I'll come over here and I think I'll just go with actually probably something like this and just rotate that. Select that, left click again, rotate that down like that, and I can start to bring that in out that way, because this is all going to get welded together anyway. And then maybe I'll bring this again, left click, I'll just hold down and bring that up that way, rotate, and then we'll bring this down in there. We can come off there, but that's the same brush. I'm going to change that brush to, let's say, this brush, so it is at least different. And then I'm going to go in here and make some adjustments. So I'll double click here, actually go to my pick tool. It's a lot easier than trying to find the line segment. Bring this down in here. This brush I'll bring off this way and make it kind of shape in like that to the other one. Bring this down here. I don't need all of this here. Actually, I can just drop a node here and then delete this node. That'll make the brush shorter. And I'll drop that. And I might want to look at another brush. Go back to my artistic media tool, come through here, got this brush. And I kind of like what's going on with this brush actually. Go up here, I'm going to go to my arrow key, make that quite a bit thinner, just so the flames kind of have the nice flow going through them. When you're doing flames, you really want a flow going on. So I'm going to go back to the pick tool, double click on that, bring this over here, shape that way, maybe like right up into there. You can see what will be happening here. Double click and delete that. That's getting kind of big down there, but that'll be okay. I can change the size of that, bring this flame shape in this way, and we'll be able to do a lot of tweaking here. This here, once again, pick tool, double click on the brush, bring this over this way, down into there. Let's get rid of this. Go back to the artistic media tool or the brush tool, arrow key, and start bringing that down in size. Probably to like right about there. Go back to the pick tool, double click on that, bring this up a little bit so it's not stepping on the other one. Bring this up into here so that'll flow down nice off of the two. So there's my brushes. They're a little bit different than the original one, but you can see the effect, and we've built all of that out. So the brushes are all set up. The next step is going to be to select all of this, and then I'll duplicate this again. I'm going to right click. It's not going to give me any break apart options. So I'm going to have to lasso the brushes. Right click, and I want to break these apart. Now see, because I'm getting this line, I'm not going to get a break apart there. And make sure I click on the brush. Okay, break 10 objects apart. Well, let's take a look at how that works just so we can be aware of it. Left click, drag, lasso these. Make sure you click on the brush, not on the line. If you click on the line, you might not get the opportunity to break it apart. Therefore, you have to click down here in the brush to break it apart. Break 10 objects apart. Now you can see the lines that the brushes were flowing along, and we'll delete those. And remove every single one of them here. We'll select all of these brushes. Right click, break 9 objects apart. And there's the vector line that brush was on. Same here. Now was this broken apart? Nope, but I will break it apart. There we go. Right click, break that apart. Then the same thing here. And the same thing here. Then these two, I'll select. Right click, break 4 objects apart. Zoom in, pushing forward on my center mouse wheel. I'll delete this, and then I'll delete this. I got the letter 2 there. I want to get this line here. Hit Control Z to bring the 2 back, and then delete that. Now you can see what we've got here and what we're working with. And looking at my original, I can see, I do have some flames going over the 1 here. That's not really going to be a big deal here. That'll be just fine. The next thing that I want to do is go ahead and select all of these brushes. Hold down Shift and select the number 1. Come up to the multiple object property bar and select Weld. Now you can see the effect. I'm going to bring the 1 and its line segment further over here so I can work on the 2 now. I want to select all of these brushes, but I don't want to by accident lasso any of this line here. So I'm just hold down Shift because I don't want to select any of these lines by accident and weld them. So I'll select all of these, and I'll select the letter 2, and I'll come up here and weld. And you can see the effect. Do the same thing down here. Holding down Shift, 2 brushes, 2 objects selected, go to 2, and then weld. Now my numbers are set up for me to go in and start tweaking or setting up these flame effects embedded into the numbers the way I'd like them to look and cleaning things up. Now it does take a few minutes working with the brushes, but it saves you a lot of time because going through and trying to hand draw all of those brushes would have taken a lot longer. So to get started, I'll come down here and I'll zoom into the bottom. We'll think about what do we want to do down here. And we can see places where the nodes really aren't working the way the brushes were welded into the actual numbers. So go to the pick tool, and here I can just start to delete things and make adjustments. I'll select that node, take the control arm, bring it up here, bring this control arm back, smooth that around. Right? I'll come over here and I want to double click here and drop a node, come here, double click and drop another node. If there's two nodes, I can lasso these. If I delete them with the delete key, they'll smooth out. Then I can pull the control arm back and have that flame kind of come off like that. So it's nice and smooth there. I could bring this back this way a little bit and smooth things out and just start shaping the way I'd like my flames to come off of the design. I could pull back this way a little bit. Maybe I don't want that to go that far off of the number 2 in the front, as you can see there. This I might not want in my design. Left click, select all of those nodes, hit the delete key. That'll get rid of that. This I could keep and right click here, change this to a curve and shape that out. There's two nodes here. I'll delete this one, bring this one perhaps up into here and shape this out like that. So it looks like the flames are starting to come off. Come here, so we go smooth. Double click, drop a node there, double click, and that'll become a curve. Check my control handles to smooth that out. And that's going down that way. Now I can see how my flames look coming off the front bottom corner at the left of the letter 2 or the number 2. Then I can come over here to the top, see what's going on here. Here I might want to bring this out here a little bit, shape that up that way, bring this way. Now the way this is set up here, I'm going to go and drop a couple of nodes, one here and one here, just double clicking. Double click to delete that node. Go to my control arm and smooth that out. And you can see here, we've got the same thing going on with the line. I'll bring this down here, I'll drop a node, let's say, down in here. Double click, there's a node. Now, if I delete one node, sometimes it'll just turn to a line. Usually it needs to be 2, but that stayed as a curve. Go to my control handles, pull these back, and just smooth out how these flames are coming out of my actual number. Now here I might want to come in this way a little bit, come over here, and then kind of go to a curve here. And let's see what this looks like if I just smooth that out a little bit. Do some more of the same here. Make some adjustments to the round shape coming out of the number here. And just set that up like that. Bring this maybe over here a little bit more. And this smooth out. Drop a node there, drop a node there, and you'll notice the line will just smooth out. Check my control arms, make sure they're not going past each other. Delete this node here, come here and here, and lay down two nodes. Double click here to delete that. Delete this node, bring this up this way maybe, just like that. Delete this node, delete that node, and you can start to work with these very easily. I might want to bring this back in a little bit. I had the foundation coming off of, now I had all of those nodes selected, so I'll hit Control Z. Click off, click on delete that, it'll smooth that right out. Bring that maybe back this way and down into here with the control arms, shaping that up. Come over here, maybe I'll pull this back this way a little bit and even a little bit more over here. See, I can pull it back in now that I've set up the foundation that I'm working with the flame brushes. Come down here and we'll smooth this out. Bring this control arm over this way. Maybe we'll go over that way. Then we'll just go through and tweak out what's going on with the design. Maybe I don't want this here. I'll delete that. Bring this down a little bit here in this direction and kind of tweak what's going on here with this shape here. Now it's going to take me probably about 15-20 minutes going through here to finish editing, but you can see what I'm doing to tweak the flames, and it's very easy to do, but I don't want to bore you during the tutorial as I go through all of this. So I'll pause here and go and finish this, and then we'll continue with the tutorial. While I'm working my way through this, through the pause, I didn't want to stop and take a look at something. Sometimes when I'm working with the flow of flames, You'll see that this area of the flame is just coming right down into here. But I might want to change how that's flowing. So I can go here, lay down a node here, come to this node, pull that up, take these control handles, pull them down, and see how that affects the change of the flow into that area of the flame. And I'll very often do that when I'm working through these. And I might want to make this a little bit bigger here. So I'll bring this up in size. And I can drop a node here and delete that node, and that'll smooth that out. Do the same thing here, bring that up in size, pull this control arm back, bring it back I think up in this area. And that looks pretty good. I'll drop that there, and then I'll delete this here. Now you notice that I'm deleting nodes, adding and deleting nodes to smooth things out. And I'm going to take a node and put it here, and then I'm going to want to bring this down into this area and just kind of really work on dialing in what's going on with the flame shapes. Now if I've gone out too far with the brushes, I can always pull that back in. So I'll pull this back in to say right about here. Then I'll just drop a node here, and then I'll select these four and delete these. I can bring this down this way here a little bit, and you can see how that looks and how that's starting to work. Might want to bring that back in even a little more so it kind of comes into what's going to go on with this flame here. So I'll go ahead and continue. I just wanted to cover that little bit of information while I'm working my way through here, and I've smoothed all of this out, and we'll continue when I get done here. Another thing what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at the number one. I'm looking at the size of the flame that's here at the top compared to the size of the other flames. And that seems just a little bit too big to me. If I go to my shape tool and I'll just start here, hold down shift, come to here, that'll select all of those nodes throughout that entire area of the line segment. Then I can go up here to the stretch and scale nodes, and I can take that and just change the size of it. Bring it down in size and then move it back up. Now it's going to make that a bit smaller, and you can see the adjustment. So it doesn't look so big there. Then I'll come in here and I'll pull this back in this way, bring this back up there and smooth that out. Now that gives me some more room to work with here for some of these other shapes, like right here, and I can dial this in a little bit there. I could come over here, bring this in over this way a little bit, do the same thing here, delete that, pull this out this way, pull that out that way, bring this in a little bit, and you can see that now that that's not quite so big. Seems to flow a little bit better with the size of the other flames that we're working with in the design. So I'll go back to tweaking this out, and we'll be back in just a minute. So I finished cleaning everything up and kind of getting everything to flow together. Once you're done with the cleanup, you can kind of go through, and I'll go to the pick tool and click off and just look at things and see how is that flow going. Is there any place in this flow where I want to make an adjustment? And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, well, this flame here seems like it could come out here just a little bit more to touch that design. This seems to be okay here. From what I can tell, that looks pretty good. I might want to come here and just bring this up there just a little bit, make some adjustment there. Come here, and this looks kind of small here, so I'm going to bring this out to like right about there. Once again, I'm shaping and working off of what I did with the brushes, and I'll bring that out that way. I'm going to bring this out this way. I'm going to bring this over here, change the size of that a little bit, and bring this in up into here, double click, get rid of those nodes. I can bring this over here a little bit. Maybe what I'll do is give this a kind of up flare look in this area here. You can see I'm tweaking that in, and then coming here, pulling out that way, and we'll zoom out and take a look at what we're getting here. And I think that's a little too far out, and I think that'll be good right there. Go to the pick tool, click off, take a look at that. Probably want to make some adjustments in here yet, just to make it look nice and clean. You can see right here there's a little where it's not quite smooth, so I'll go in here and I can bring that out, bring that back that way. Now that made a nice improvement by rounding off this area in here. Bring this in here, bring that out to like probably right about there, a little bit more. Now these two control arms are overlapping each other, but I can bring this in this way, smooth that out, and then I think, yeah, that looks a lot better. So now I am done with the flame aspect of adding the flame integration into the numbers or the text for the racing number design. I'll start moving into the next steps. Now up here, what I'm going to need to do, because this is a flame up here, I'll zoom in up there. Here I can see some things I might want to fix in that. You'll find these as you're working along, but I probably want to bring this control arm up to straight, pull that up just a little bit. Now here what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to take this line, because I'm going to use it to create that, bring that up here and basically set that right there, and then double click and I'll drop here, double click and I'll drop here, double click and drop there, and then double click and drop there, and then take all of these and I'll just convert them to a curve. I'll hit my C key with those selected, but actually I got to get these line segments, so I can drop in a line segment and hit C, and sometimes that'll change that to a curve, but that's not going to happen. So I'm just going to select everything here, and I'll come up here and go to convert to curves, and then I'll start smoothing this out as well. And one of the things you can do is just select everything, then go say symmetrical nodes, and you can see that smooth that all out. Now this is still a line here, I think. Yeah, it is. And I'll change this to a symmetrical also, or I could have just hit my S key to change that, but I want to bring that right through here. Now there I can see I've got a little issue there. Just let that smooth that out, then bring this down, zoom in, come through here and make sure that's going right through to there. Now by doing that, that way when I do my Smart Fill tool work, it's going to go up right through that flame there and still look correct. Next I'm going to come over here and I'll deal with this line segment, and I'll just left click, bring that out. Just going to double click here, add a node there, zoom in, bring this right in here. Just do the same thing that I did previously and bring that over here. And one thing I do want is I do want to line that up with that corner right there on that line segment. Then I'll just go ahead and select all of this, and I'll change that to a smooth node. But I'm going to have to convert to curves first, so I can either right click and go with the right click contextual menu, go to curve, and then select and go to smooth. Then I'll smooth that out, and then I can start to work with it. I'll hit Control Z because I had all of those nodes selected and that's not what I wanted, and just smooth that out so it flows with the flame. This I want to stay straight, but I do want it to be smooth here. I'll double click there, zoom in here, make sure that this is where I want it here, and that's exactly where I want it. Now I can start to work with the Smart Fill tool, which is right down here, and I'll select that. You can see that my cursor has changed. Now the Smart Fill tool, what it'll do is it'll create a vector object as long as I have everything actually overlapped, as I demonstrated earlier. So we're going to have shadow here, shadow here, shadow here, shadow here, and this will be highlight, highlight, and highlight to create our bevel look for our sports numbers design. Up here I have the properties. I can specify the fill options and color, the outline, which I've set to none, and the outline color. Now if I come down here and with this tool, the Smart Fill tool, and I click that, what it will do is it will create a vector object based on the area that was not filled with anything here or didn't have anything in it, and you have to make sure that these lines pass or else it'll just go off into the whole section or region. I'll hit Control Z to move that back, and then I'll go back to the Smart Fill tool. I'll click here and we can see that, click here and click here. So now I have these vector objects to work with on top of my sports numbers. The next thing I want to do is go to the pick tool and just get rid of these lines, but I'll duplicate it first. So I'll select everything, left click, right click one time, duplicate that, push forward with my center mouse wheel to zoom in. And that's how I zoom in, zoom out all the time. When you see me moving around in my workspace, I'm really zooming in and zooming out using my center mouse wheel, pushing forward to zoom in. Click off here, select that line segment and hit the delete key. Come here, select this line segment, delete that. Zoom in here and delete this. And we've got everything there. Finally, I'll come down here to the 1, delete that. And now we can see the look that we have with the flames built in and our numbers. I'll bring this over here and I'll hold down Control to constrain that, and we'll see how that looks. And I like that look. And what I like here is that we're following the diagonal aspect of the bevel that we made. You can see it's going in this direction, so we're following a diagonal direction with the flames that adds balance to, but adds a really nice element to the design. So that's all set to go. Now the next thing I can do is I want to add maybe some little flame touches here and things, and you can see that we did that down in here. And what I did is I took just a piece of flame and I just added some stuff here and some stuff here to give that some flame look going off of the area where there isn't flame, so it does kind of fit in with the design. So I'll duplicate this again. I'll come over here, and if I want to grab something that looks like a flame coming off of my design that I can tie into that area that's going in here, so I'll go to this right here. I'm just going to go to my pen tool. I'll just create a line like that. Double click to end it. Again, my shape tool, create another shape there, pick tool, delete this line segment, and now I've got a little flame type section that I can work with. I'll change the color of that to say a blue for now, and I'll mirror that, and then I'll rotate that, and I can just fit that in here any way I'd like to, coming down through here, put one here, scale it down a little bit, put another one, and I got my center point there. I didn't want that. Left click, right click one time to duplicate, bring that down here. Maybe I'll rotate that and then resize that a bit. Then we'll just go ahead and hold down Shift, select, 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 multiple object property bar, weld. So there's that effect built in there, and you can see how that worked. I'll hit Control Z to go back. Just wanted to let you see how that would work, because I want one of these actually over here for the 1 also. So I'll duplicate that there, and then once again, holding down Shift, select. Don't want this selected. Select, click, 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 and weld. Now I'll come over to the 1, same shape, zoom in a bit, and we'll left click, get into rotation mode here, bring this up or down to right about there. Left click, right click one time to duplicate that again. Right about there, I'd say. And we'll come down here and we'll make this quite a bit smaller. And there we go. Then holding down, move this up here in the middle a little bit. Holding down Shift, select, select, and select. Now when you do your selection, something interesting, you're going to hit the color and the properties of the last object you select. And you'll notice that my blue will turn to this purple when I come up here to the multiple property bar and click on weld. Now we've got the flames and everything all set up here. Next we'll start moving into creating the rest of the elements or the rest of the pieces of the design. As you can see here, what I did is I did a contour. And then I had to clean that up because when I contoured, it kind of went all over the place in here. It was kind of messy, so I had to make the contour and then clean that up. So I'm going to go and make the contour here. And I'll keep a backup of this. I like to do that when I'm working back things up as I go along. I'll select this object. I'll come over to the interactive. You normally see the drop shadow here. The interactive effects tools, and I'll go to the contour. Now this is set to 1 at 0.3, but all I need to do is just left click, hold down, start moving, and I can create a contour to the outside. But what happened there is I need to have my 1 and my 2 combined back together so I get a contour for both. So I'll hit Control Z. So what I need to do is go back to the pick tool. The 2 is selected. Hold down Shift and select the 1. Now, the interesting thing is that because I made shapes for the shade, this flame tail is not going to get welded into the 1. Just the shapes in the background will. So I'll come up here to the Multiple Objects property bar and weld those two. And you can see the flame did not disappear, which is nice. Or the tip of that flame. Now with that said, I can go back to the contour tool. I'll zoom in, left click, hold down, and interactively create that contour. Now what I don't want to have is I don't want it to be too big. I don't want too much contour, just enough to offset this a little and give me an object to work with behind the numbers for the racing number design. Now you can see this comes out kind of choppy. I'm going to go through and fix this. I'm going to go clean this up. But the first thing I'll have to do is, and I'll take this out just a little bit further. Say like right about there. And that should be good. I'll give you some things to work with. And I'll take this and shape this off that way. And play off all of the shape for the contour. So I'll need to do some cleanup here. Just like I did for the flames, I'll go to my pick tool, right click on the contour, make sure I'm on the contour, right click, break contour group apart. Now that that's broken apart, I can go through here with the shape tool, select these nodes. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to get rid of this over here. Is there anything else small floating around that I want to get rid of? Probably get rid of this and this. And I'm just using the nodes to delete this as opposed to breaking it apart. And that'll be good. Then I'll come up in through here and start smoothing things out. I'll come in here and drop a node, double click, select both of these, double click on them. They'll delete. That control arm's a little too long. I'm going to smooth this out. And I'll start working my way. This fits with the actual tip of the 1 here, so that's okay. Come over here, and you can see this should actually kind of like go like this. So this I'll delete. That'll be a line segment. I'm going to bring this out this way to, let's say, like right about there. Double click here, change all of this to curves. Just right click to curve. And what I'm going to do is bring this over that way, but I want to deselect first, then grab just this node and kind of give this some curve to it before I start working with the rest of the shape. Then I'll come through here and delete all of these. This arm's way too long, this control arm, so I'm going to bring this down and smooth that out. Bring this over this way, delete that, and then I'll bring this down into here, something like that. Bring this over this way. I'm going to bring this over here, and I'll select these two and delete these. And just work my way through the shape, kind of like I did when we were working with the flames, but I want to give this some point to it like it fits with the flame. So I'll work on that, and I'll go ahead and pause here and work my way through cleaning this up. We'll get into the rest of the tutorial. I'm sure you've seen enough of how it is I go through and clean things up when I'm working with the shape tool and the vector objects. And we can see the work with the flame brushes and cleaning up the flames. Now this is a detailed type of design or graphic, but we're picking up a lot of unique tips and tricks along the way. And we can see this all coming together, all the work with the vector and the flame brushes, and now working with the contour. We'll be able to set up all of this once this is cleaned up, the contour, and then move into some other interesting tricks to get some other effects in our design. I'll wrap here and I'll continue, or I'll be back when I get done cleaning up this contour. So you see I've got the contour all cleaned up here, and we can start working with this vector curve or this shape. Now the next step for me is going to be that I'm going to add a block shadow to this. So I'll bring this over here and duplicate that there. I'm going to come over here to the interactive tools, but the first thing I want to do is make sure I have just the contour selected. And actually I think I'll give that an outline at this point in time. I'll give that an outline of, let's say, 3 points, and we'll make that black. Go to the object properties, go to the pen tool, and I'm going to round the end caps and the corners on that. And we can see that, and that looks pretty nice right there. That'll help those numbers come right off as we start to set the rest of the design up here. So I'll go to the interactive tools now, go to the block shadow, and I'm just going to left click, hold down, and position that like right about there, coming off just a little bit to the left to give some depth also, not just to the bottom down here, but also to the side. And I'll release that. And we can see that effect. Now, because the outline is 3 points, I think that's a little bit too much on this. So I'm going to go back and select the contour right here. And let's take a look at a 1 point. And actually, I know what the issue is here. And I'm not doing any editing or anything. I'm letting you see if I make a mistake. So as I'm troubleshooting what I'm doing, the reality is I don't have a fill on that. So that's why the block shadow is so strong. I'll fill that with white, and now we can see that. Now I'll go back to the 3 point, and we can see that. And that is the block shadow set up for the sports number design. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to set up what we have here as this effect that's kind of like a tear or scratch that's going on behind the design. This is going to get interesting. There's going to be some effects that are kind of fun to work with. So I'm going to bring this over here and just duplicate it up into here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it shape like this. So to do that, I'm going to create a rectangle. And I'm going to make that a perfect rectangle. So I'll just hold down Control and Shift, and it'll be from the center. If I hold down Control, it'll be from the opposite side. But if I hold down Control and Shift, it'll be a perfect square from the center. I'm going to get my pick tool, change to the rotation mode, hold down Control to constrain that, and then just stretch that out. I'm going to want that to be just about the shape that I have there, a little bit thinner. We'll bring that down in size a little bit and make that very close to what I have here. Bring that up a little bit and down a little bit, maybe just a little bit wider like that. Then I've got that shape. I'll fill that with black, take the outline off, left click, right click one time, duplicate that there. I'm going to hold down Shift. You see my cursor change? I'm going to reduce the size to the center just a bit to something like that right there, as you can see. And I'll bring this over here, and I'll left click, right click, duplicate one time, come up here to the scale handle, hold down Shift. That way I can resize to the center, maybe a little bit more like that, and bring that in. And if that's too much, I'll bring that up. Just pull up, come over here, and pull that up a little bit. Bring that down here. Maybe some of the same here. Once again, this design will not be identical to the other. I'm very close, but not identical. We're doing a different project here. And once again, holding down Shift, reduce in size to the center. That should be good, and I'll bring that over here. I'm going to select everything here, and I grabbed something by accident there. So I'll start here at the bottom. Well, I got another object there. So just hold down Shift then. Shift, 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 select all four. Hit the E key to align them horizontally. Take these three, bring them over here, left click, right click, duplicate one time, then mirror those. Get them nice and close. Now I'm going to go do some effects work here. So we'll select everything here. Didn't get the center. I'm going to bring this over here, and that's 3 by 6 inches. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Keep a copy of the vector, duplicate, left click, right click one time. I'm going to go to bitmap, convert to bitmap, 300 dpi. The options really aren't going to matter because I'm going to vector trace this. Select OK. Then I'm going to copy this, and now I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to go to the transparency, change the mode to subtract. I'm going to go to bitmaps, come down to distort and blocks. And I'm going to change the width of that. Now, you'll see what will happen here because I'm going to change the offset quite a bit and bring these up. And look at the effect. It's starting to offset that. That's going to give that a really rough edge when I trace the vector. Block height, probably about that. Width, bring that down a little bit smaller. That looks good. What about my block height? How's that? That looks good also. Then I'm just going to left click, right click, duplicate one time and add some more of that in there. And because it's set to subtract, it just adds to it. And that looks good right there. I'm going to take all of this. I want to zoom in here and see what we've got here. That might want to bring that down just a bit or bring that out a bit. Right about there. And that'll be good. Okay, so that's nice and rough and grungy. Kind of like scratched or something like that. I'll select all of that. And I'm going to go bitmap, convert to bitmap, 300 dpi, anti-aliasing, none of that matters, and select OK. Now this is 6 by 10, so it's going to get reduced, but I'll go to bitmap, outline trace, detailed logo, reduce the bitmap. That'll bring up power trace, and it'll start tracing the object. Now I want to go to colors and make sure this stays at 1 or 2. And it will because it was just one color. It's only got 2 colors, but I'm going to change this down 1 to 2. Not 4, 2. There we go. Okay, so I got 2 colors there. Actually 3, I want 2. There we go, 2 colors. Now that's going to be fine the way that it is. I'm going to zoom in there and take a look at that. Now I can go to my settings. I'm going to bring my detail up. So get more of that roughness. I'm going to bring my smoothing down so it's nice and rough and select OK. Now I've got all of this as a vector. I'm going to ungroup all objects with everything selected, and then I'm going to go to weld and make that one object nice and rough. Now we can bring that down here to our design. Then we'll reshape it about to the size that we'll be working with for the design. Probably something like right about there. Then we're going to go to the interactive envelope tool. And I'm going to double click and delete this node, double click and delete that envelope node. And I'm just going to give this some sweeping effect to it. Something like that right there. I'll do the same thing here on this side. As you can see, just like that. Now this I'm going to take and I'll rotate and I'll set this up to go in the background of the design. So I'll set it on top to position it, right click, just go to order, I'll go to back of page, and we can see how that fits in my design. Now I'll go back to the envelope tool and I can start to adjust that. I'll bring this in this way, bring that out a little bit, bring that over this way, maybe bring this down a little bit more into how I want this to look. Bring some of this off up this way, and you can see how this is working. Double click here, lasso these 2 nodes, bring this off this way, and all I'm doing is click on the node and dialing in the shape for the effect that I'm looking for. And that's going to look all right. It's different than the original, but it's still going to look all right. And I might want to do a little bit more with that over here. Pull this down a little bit, bring it out a little bit more. Just like that, so it's kind of even there. And you can dial these things as you're going. Now looking at this, I'm thinking I might want some more curve in here to kind of match what's going on up there, up at the top, and through here. This is kind of straight here. make this a little bit bigger and bring this down here, say right about there. That looks good. I might want to just put some curve in there. Now, since this is in an envelope, I don't want to try and apply other effects to it with effects tools because it's not curves and it might just explode because it's in the envelope. So I'm going to go to my pick tool and I can right click and select convert to curves or hit Control Q. Convert that to curves. I'm going to come up here to the shape tool, then to the flyout down to the smear tool. Now I have the smear tool. Now I can hold down Shift to resize that. Brush on any size I want, pushing forwards or backwards or left and right with my mouse. I can also hold down Alt with this and click off, click on, hold down Alt, and then I can adjust what would be up here. You can see the pressure is set to 65. If I hold down Alt, I can interactively adjust that right on or right in the workspace. I'm going to hold down Shift, bring this down to about right here, and then just move that into more of a curve there. Push that out, pull some of this, then just do some tweaking here to get that look right where I want it. And that'll be good right there. And once again, here we're working with the smear tool. So that looks good, and I'm happy with that at this point. If I want to make that a little bit smaller or more narrow, I can do that, bring that up this way, etc. There's the effect. Now I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to left click, right click one time and duplicate that. I'm going to fill that with an orange. Now I'm going to take the orange, right click, go to order, and go to back of page, or I could hit Control N. Now I want to trim the orange. So I'm going to select the black, hold down Shift, and select the orange. The last object selected is the object that will get trimmed. I'll come here to the multiple objects properties bar and trim that. Now I can move that to offset just a bit for the effect on the design, as you can see there. So I've got that set up now, and we've got the black with the orange set up in the background. So I'm going to bring this over here, and we can see what we're working with now. Now I'm going to change the, now click off here, I'm going to change the fill of the numbers to, let's say, the yellow. Actually, I'll go for the colors that we had in the final design. Bring this over here, and I'll change this to a fill of the kind of orangish yellow. So I'll go to the yellow, click on that. I want to make sure I got that selected. I just changed, I had the wrong thing selected. Hit Control Z. Make sure I've got the text selected, which I do. Click on the yellow to put the fill on that. And then I'll come down here to the fill bucket, double click on that. Now I've got the edit fill, and I'm going to bring that down into a yellow orange and select OK. Then I'll go ahead and select, holding down Shift, what would be the shadow objects, and I'm going to weld those. And then I'm going to go for the fill there as well, and I'll bring that fill down into more of like an orange, or a reddish orange, something like that right there, and I'll select OK, and we can see that's about what we've got there. Then I'll go to the contour, and that I'm going to fill with a yellow for the effect, and I'll take the outline off of the numbers, see how that looks, and then I'm going to start doing some things to give this some difference in color and bring that out. And this yellow that I have here, I think I'll bring this down even more. So I'll double click there, and I'll bring this down a little bit more. There we go. There, that's got some more contrast, and select OK. Now I'll take this, left click, right click one time, and duplicate that. And set that right about there. And fill that with black. Then I'll go right click, order, and I'll go to, and you can't see it, in front of and click on the contour. Now you can see how that sets that off and it brings it forth in the actual design. Starts to make it look so that you can see the text and the flame effects more clearly with that effect in the background. And you can go to that until that you've got selected by the black and dial that in. And that looks good. I might want to bring that down a little bit more, maybe. Something like that. Down there. And taking a look at that, I'll say that's going to look just fine. Now I'm going to add some more effects to this. So I'm going to take the shadow object, make sure I've got that selected. I'm going to go to the contour, and I'm going to go to the inside. Now that's going to be off here, contour offset too large. I'll need to zoom out. It's going to be over here, and I want to go to the inside. Not too much, but just enough to be like right about there. And we'll zoom in and we can see where we are with that. I might want that just a little smaller than that. I'll zoom in and take a look at it. I'm happy with that. So right click, break contour group apart. Now I'm going to left click and duplicate that and fill that with, let's say, a red. So I've got the orange in the contour group. I'm going to bring this over here. That's in the contour group. I've got that there. Does that have an outline on it? No, it does not. I'm going to hold down Shift, select that. I'm going to click on front minus back. Now I've got these vector objects that can kind of be put in like here to add some more definition. I'll fill those with black. And then I'm going to go and just right click on that and select break curve apart. Go around and clean up things like here. I'm going to click off. I want to delete that. Delete this. That'll be okay. This I won't need. I'll delete that. Go here, delete this. Delete that. And that. Anything else I want to delete here? And you can see the effect now going on with that, which is really interesting. I'm looking at this yellow and I don't like the contrast between the two, so I might want to change this orange a little bit again. So I'll come here, or actually that's like a yellow orange, and I'll bring that down to more of a yellow orange and select OK. Now at this point I've got this set up pretty much the way I want it, as you can see between the final down here and up here. And I'll just grab the Furious Racing and we'll bring that up here to the top. But I do want to add some highlights in here to make it a little more interesting. So I'm going to go to the pen tool and I'm just going to come here on these points and I'll double click and that line. Go to the Smart Fill tool and I'll fill that. Click off, I'll come in, zoom in, delete that line. I'm going to bring this and offset it to right about there. Double click, drop a node here, delete this, bring this in. Then I'll fill this with white, like a highlight. Then I'll go to the Transparency tool. Now I'm going to, the Transparency tool selected, which is over here, I'm going to left click, hold down and drag up. Or actually I think I'll go the other way. Just grab the starting point and bring it up there. Just to add some highlight there. Or a touch of it. And I'll do the same thing over here. So I'll go to the pen tool. Just going to left click here. Left click here. I could double click to end the line. Go to the Smart Fill tool. Fill that. Get my pick tool. Delete this line. Move this object. Bring it about the same. Double click on it. Double click this node, delete it. Double click that node, delete it. Double click here to add a node. Give that some shape. Fill that with white. Go to my transparency and do that again. bring that way and release. Come here and bring this down. Come here and I can just make some adjustments to that too. Make it a little brighter up here at the top. Then I'll do the same thing over here on the 1. Go to the pen tool and I'll start like here and go to there and just double click to end the line. Then I'll go to the Smart Fill tool, fill that, get that vector shape from the Smart Fill tool, delete the line, and then bring this down to about there. Double click, change to the Shape tool, delete, double click, delete, get rid of these nodes just by double clicking on them. Then add a node here, bring it to like right there, and I can fill that with a white. And I'll go to the Transparency tool, left click, hold down, drag that way. There's some highlighting. So now we have what I would say is a finished racing numbers design. And I can left click and select all of this, and maybe I want to move this up into here a little bit, just like that. Left click and I'll just group everything. Do the same thing with the racing numbers, group that. Hit the center key to center it, which it pretty much is. Get my comp, bring that over. Select this, left click, hold down, right click one time. Set this up as a center chest print, and we can see that effect. Now, if I want to make some adjustments to this, I can still go into many different things, but we've been going for quite a while here, and this has actually been a pretty long tutorial. Change this to yellow because we're on the red. Then I'll come back here to the bottom. Want to ungroup that. And I'll change that to the, what is that? That's the yellow. Which object is that? I'm going to go to the bottom one, change that to orange, and I got my shirt, not the vector. Let's see if we've got that. Yep, we got that. We'll change that to orange. We can move that a little bit. Change this to black, and we can see the effect on the t-shirt. And we can still do a lot of things. We can come in here and select the orange and the black, hold down shift. I want to make sure I've got those selected. Select the orange object, click off, select that, hold down shift, get the black. I've got two objects. They're probably grouped. Yes, they are. Sometimes I group things and forget that I grouped them. I don't want to ungroup all. I just want to ungroup objects in case there's anything grouped in there. I always start with ungroup. I don't do ungroup all. Now I've got that, and that is the orange. Hold down shift. I've got the black. And I can bring this up maybe a little bit and move this back and maybe bring this down a little bit. Pull this out this way. Pull that out that way a little bit. Zoom out and we can see that effect. Select everything and make that a little bit of a bigger center chest and position that. And you can see there's the design. Now I might want to play with the contrast, change colors. You can do whatever you want to do with that. Looking at this orange, I might want to bring this yellowish orange that I've got here even more so into another color. So I'll just double click here and we could make some adjustments to that, bringing that down even more into the orange. Select OK. Come here to the other orange, double click on that and bring that down even more into a reddish orange. Not too much. Select OK, and we can see that that definitely adds some contrast to the design. And you can go through and change and tweak and do a lot of things with the colors and things like that, but at this point this has been a long tutorial. We've gone through a lot of things in setting up this racing numbers design, and we'll go ahead and wrap here. And once again, you can download the file with everything to work along on our website, advancedtshirts.com, including the, what I call the flame construction brushes, and you can work through and follow along. Now the interesting thing is when you pick up some of these things, you'll see places where you can apply them in your design process. They won't be as long as this design. This was a pretty long design project. I could have done a lot faster if I wasn't working in a tutorial explaining things and going through things. Probably typically do a design like this in 30 to 45 minutes. So thanks for watching. I hope you picked up some tips and tricks along the way. And once again, you can download the work along file on our website. We'll wrap here and we'll see you in our next video.